Let me tell you a story. Every night was the same. I sat in the dark room, surrounded by guests who wanted the same thing they always did. Delivering the same performance day in, day out, had long since passed tedious. But we all have our parts to play. I looked at one guest. He was sitting in a chair to the right, wearing a three-piece suit, an elegant walking stick balanced against his knee. Clearly, you're a man of great accomplishment, yet I see that a great failure haunts you. He looks at me and nods, astonished. Something about money? Lots of money. Embezzlement. He nodded again, ashamed. Don't worry, none of the innocents affected will suffer. There's no more need for regret. He looked at me with relief, face stoic. I turned to a woman across the aisle. You possess a great capacity for love, that much is clear. Yet what haunts you most is a loved one you didn't get to settle things with, isn't it? Someone you lost before you could say all the things that needed to be said? She didn't look away, even as tears started streaming down her face. A disease. Cancer? She nodded forlornly. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but know that she is at peace and knows how much you loved her. You didn't need to say it. You'd been showing it her entire life. A look of consolation came over her, as if an enormous weight had been lifted. I turned to the third visitor, a child. These were always the worst. Did you lose your parents? He nodded, of course. That was the only reason children were ever here alone. I can only imagine how difficult this must be for you. But know that your parents loved you very, very much. They would have stayed with you forever if they could have. But they are watching over you every day, and they are so incredibly proud of you. He didn't say anything, just stared ahead. I got the feeling it was all too much for him to process. Hopefully, in time, my words would be remembered and provide some solace. As I finished, I looked up to a man staring at me. He was dressed in black, but what stood out were his eyes. They were completely empty, as if there were no soul behind them. Then I felt him, and, as if commanded, I spoke. You have done unspeakable things, caused unimaginable suffering, and there will be no forgiveness. But the ones below have taken notice and saved a special place for you. Your time has come. At that, dark shadows rose from the floor and surrounded him like a shroud. Then a scream pierced the air, sharp and terrifying. And he was gone. I turned and walked from the room, the remaining crowd staring at me in amazement. But I'm not sure why. It wasn't all that hard, really. It was all in their obituaries.